Deep in the night, the Amherst house is entirely still. The year is somewhere in the first half of the 1860s, and you sit alone in your bedroom, bathed in the weak, flickering light of a single lamp. You dip your pen into the inkwell and press it against fine, cream-colored stationery. With meticulous, deliberate strokes, you copy out your poetry. You are doing something far more significant than merely writing. You are secretly building a literary empire in the confines of your bedroom. When a stack of pages is complete, you take a threaded needle. You pierce the delicate paper, pulling the string tight to bind the sheets together into private booklets, small manuscript fascicles containing the raw, unfiltered blood of your imagination. This is your radical pursuit of artistic integrity and spiritual independence through self-imposed isolation and private creation. You are producing a massive volume of genius work, an astonishing output of hundreds of radically innovative poems. Yet you are aggressively choosing to keep them hidden. You carry these bound fascicles across the floorboards and place them gently into a heavy camphor wood chest. You deliberately hide your genius from a world you know is entirely unready to understand it. A world that will inevitably try to alter, soften, and correct your voice. You lock the chest. The world outside sleeps, unaware of the vast, unseen universe expanding within these four walls. To understand this desperate need for secrecy, you must look to the heavy Orthodox world that forged you. You are born on December 10, 1830, into a prominent, conservative, and fiercely intellectual family dynasty in Amherst, Massachusetts. Your father is a stern, ambitious Whig politician, a man who commands respect and enforces a rigid, uncompromising moral architecture within his household. He demands excellence and adherence to duty. Under his roof, there is little room for frivolousness or unguarded emotion. You are raised within an intensely insular sibling triad, alongside your brother Austin and your sister Lavinia. The three of you form a private fortress against the overwhelming expectations of the society outside your door. You receive a rigorous education, unusual in its depth for women of the era, studying astronomy, botany, chemistry, and geology. You learn to observe the natural world with the clinical precision of a scientist and the breathless wonder of a mystic. But this education does not buy you freedom. As you mature, the crushing weight of 19th century society bears down upon you. You are expected to step into the exhausting social obligations placed on women of your standing. You must make and receive endless calls, serve tea to the local elite, and participate in the suffocating rituals of polite conversation. Your days are fractured into 1,000 meaningless tasks, leaving no quiet space for the vast, demanding machinery of your own mind. You recognize early on that this life is a trap. You are born into a rigid family whose high societal expectations threaten to suffocate your distinct inner life. Every social engagement, every expectation to marry and manage a polite household is a theft of your time and your creative energy. To survive, you must find a way to sever the heavy chains of obligation without destroying the family bonds that anchor you to the earth. The first true test of your spirit arrives in 1847. You are 16 years old, enrolled in Mary Lyons Mount Holyoke Female Seminary. The air in New England crackles with a period of intense religious revivalism. Fire and brimstone preachers travel the countryside, urging congregations to declare their salvation. At the seminary, Mary Lyon is a formidable force, relentlessly pressuring her students to publicly profess an orthodox faith. The student body is divided into three groups: those who have found salvation, those who harbor hope, and those who are without hope. The pressure to conform, to stand up in the crowded hall and accept the rigid Puritan tradition is immense. It is the easiest path. It secures social standing, the approval of your peers, and the blessing of the authority figures who control your future. Faced with this immense pressure to conform spiritually, you draw a line in the sand. You refuse to stand. You refuse to declare a faith that feels false to your own profound private understanding of the divine. Because you refuse to submit to this public performance of belief, the seminary officially labels you a no-hoper. You leave Mount Holyoke after only 10 months, bearing the stigma of an outsider. This is your first major public rebellion against the religious and social conformity of your era. You choose spiritual independence over social acceptance, a decision that isolates you but preserves the absolute integrity of your own soul. The institution demands your submission, and you reply with a quiet, devastating refusal. There is a profound courage in claiming the title of the damned simply to protect the truth of your own mind. As the 1850s bleed into the 1860s, you begin to systematically withdraw from the public eye. You attend fewer gatherings. You decline invitations. But your increasing physical isolation is not an absence of feeling. It is a concentrated distillation of immense private passion. As you step back from public life, your private world erupts with a volcanic, irrepressible emotional intensity. This intensity finds its primary target in your sister-in-law, Susan Dickinson. You develop a deeply passionate, romantic, and potentially erotic attachment to her. Highly expressive, romanticized female friendships are a convention of the 19th century. But your letters to Susan burn with an astonishing, consuming fire. You enclose meticulously pressed blossoms from your extensive herbarium within the folds of the paper. Physical tokens of a devotion that strains against the boundaries of your confined world. Your volcanic emotional life is conducted largely through ink and paper. During this period, you also draft 3 deeply passionate, submissive, and tortured letters to an unidentified figure you call Master. You write with raw, agonizing vulnerability, begging for spiritual and emotional recognition. You ask, if you saw a bullet hit a bird, and he told you he wasn't shot, you might weep at his courtesy, but you would certainly doubt his word. The identity of the Master remains a closely guarded secret, a phantom recipient of your most unguarded torment. You pour your entire, agonizing soul onto the page, creating a vast emotional landscape that no one in the polite drawing rooms of Amherst could possibly comprehend. You are a woman building a universe of staggering emotional depth, locked safely behind the closed door of your second-story bedroom. Yet, this profound isolation is punctuated by moments of brilliant, eccentric lightness. You do not hate the world, you simply cannot tolerate its exhausting demands. You find unconventional ways to connect with it on your own terms. From your second-story window, you attach a string to a small basket filled with freshly baked gingerbread. You lower the sweet treats down to the neighborhood children playing in the yard below. You remain a mystery to them, a benevolent phantom dispensing gifts from the sky. This simple, joyful act perfectly encapsulates your relationship with society. You will feed them. You will offer them the sweet products of your labor, but you will maintain a safe, physical distance. You dictate the terms of engagement. You are accessible only by the length of a fragile string. By 1862, your creative output reaches a fever pitch. The fascicles in your camperwood chest multiply, but a part of you still wonders if your voice can survive in the world outside. You read an article in the Atlantic Monthly by the literary critic Thomas Wentworth Higginson, offering advice to young writers. You make a fateful, vulnerable decision to reach out. You send him a letter, enclosing a few of your poems, and ask a simple, devastating question. Are you too deeply occupied to say if my verse is alive? Higginson is stunned by your work. He recognizes your undeniable, raw talent. But he is a man of the 19th century literary establishment, bound by orthodox rules of meter, rhyme, and punctuation. He looks at your radical, jagged dashes and your unconventional capitalization, and he sees errors that need to be fixed. Higginson attempts to tame your radical voice. He gently advises you to delay publication, to smooth out your rough edges, to learn the proper rules of poetry. When the literary gatekeepers attempt to tame your radical voice, you realize a horrific truth. The world does not want your true voice. It wants a polished, polite imitation of it. You reject their terms entirely. You decide that to publish is to auction the mind. Because you realize the literary establishment will alter your art, you make the aggressive choice to withdraw completely and crown yourself the sole guardian of your legacy. This is why you sit alone in the dark, binding your own fascicles with needle and thread. Instead of conforming to get published, you choose absolute artistic integrity, locking your unedited, brilliant soul away in a camphor-wood chest. In a culture that demands constant female compromise, true rebellion sometimes looks like silence. From the late 1860s onward, your physical retreat becomes absolute. You rarely leave the boundaries of the homestead. You speak to visitors only through doors left slightly ajar, a disembodied voice floating from the hallway. You adopt a strict uniform, wearing only pristine white cotton dresses, turning yourself into a living ghost within your own home. Your eyes become highly sensitive to the light, forcing you to adapt your beloved routines. You wait for the sun to set, taking a lantern out into your extensive garden and indoor glass conservatory. You tend to your flowers in the dark, a spectral figure moving quietly among the blooming petals. Your carefully constructed sanctuary protects your time, but it also traps you in a space where time inevitably brings ruin. Between 1874 and 1884, a relentless cascade of grief shatters your quiet world. The people you love are steadily stripped away from you. When your stern, commanding father passes away, the devastation is so profound that you cannot even face the crowd of mourners. You stay in your upstairs bedroom, leaving your door cracked open just enough to listen to his funeral service echoing from the parlor below. The losses compound with cruel speed. Your mother passes away. Then, in a blow that nearly breaks your spirit, your beloved 8-year-old nephew, Gilbert, dies of typhoid fever. Soon after, you lose Judge Otis Phillips Lord, a man with whom you had shared a deeply affectionate, flirtatious, late-blooming romance. Your fortress of isolation becomes a fortress of mourning, filled with the heavy, unmoving air of Victorian bereavement. The outside world intrudes on your grief in the form of a bitter family scandal. Your brother Austin engages in a very public, scandalous affair with Mabel Loomis Todd, a charismatic younger woman. The betrayal tears your family's social fabric apart. Out of loyalty to your sister-in-law Susan, and fiercely protective of your own sanctuary, you absolutely refuse to meet Mabel face to face. Yet, the bizarre reality of your isolated life creates strange compromises. When Mabel visits the house to play the piano, you remain hidden in a separate room. You listen to her music through the walls, and occasionally, you play a piece back to her. Two women, intrinsically linked by family scandal and a shared love of music, communicating purely through sound, never laying eyes on one another. It is a haunting testament to the unyielding boundaries you have drawn around yourself. Your physical body finally yields to the relentless strain. On May 15th, 1886, at the age of 55, you succumb to Bright's disease, a severe kidney affliction accompanied by devastating hypertension. You are dressed in your signature white cotton and laid to rest, your casket adorned with heliotrope and delicate pink lady slipper orchids. You slip into the earth, leaving behind a profound silence. Shortly after your funeral, your sister Lavinia begins the grim task of sorting through your belongings. She walks into your bedroom and opens the heavy lid of the locked camphor-wood chest. Inside, she discovers the staggering magnitude of your secret life. Nearly 1,800 poems, meticulously copied and bound into fascicles, wait in the dark. Following your death, your hidden genius is unearthed. only to be immediately caught in the crossfire of a bitter, multi-generational war. Lavinia takes the poems to your sister-in-law, Susan, and then to Mabel Loomis Todd. The two factions, deeply divided by Austen's affair, fight ruthlessly over the rights to your legacy. Beginning in 1890, they publish your work, but they commit the exact sin you spent your life trying to prevent. They heavily edit your poems to fit 19th century tastes. They erase your radical dashes, correct your unconventional capitalization, and smooth out your jagged, brilliant rhymes. Your worst fears are tragically realized by those you left behind. The bitter irony of history is that your own fractured family became the very gatekeepers who censored your voice. For decades, the world knows only a sanitized version of your mind. But your original pages, the private fascicles you bound in the dead of night, survive the family feuds and the passage of time. Finally, in 1955, the scholar Thomas H. Johnson publishes the complete, unedited collection of your poetry, restoring every dash, every capitalization, and every brilliant, fractured thought. Nearly a century after you locked them away, your words are finally presented exactly as you intended. Your radical pursuit of artistic integrity through self-imposed isolation is entirely vindicated. You aggressively hid your work in the 1860s to save its soul, and that silent rebellion successfully conquered time itself. You outweighted the orthodox society that tried to change you, proving that true genius requires no permission to endure.